Hey everybody, Kimberly Olson here, and we are just getting started. So I'm going to give it a second for everyone to pop on and for the Zoom to connect. Looks like some people are popping on. Welcome everyone. We will get Erin on here momentarily. You guys know how Zoom can be. It's a little tricky, but I actually had my computer guy come over and fix my Zoom. So are you all not proud of me if you've been on some of my recent Zooms? It's been a little messy. So welcome everyone to our special webinar with Erin Gargan King. I am beyond honored and grateful that she is taking time out of her very busy schedule to pour into my goal diggers. I think that is so neat that she's just willing to take time to do something like that. It means a lot to me. So while you guys are popping on, I'll get Erin on here. Let me make sure she can get on. Okay. So what I'm going to have you guys do is I want you to introduce yourselves in the chat. So go ahead and let me know you're on. Say, hey, Kimberly. Hey, Erin. I also want you to share with us where you're tuning in from, city, state, province, country. If you're home, if you're out and about, you're in your car, you're at home in your office, where are you hanging out right now? Hi, Martin. So nice to see you guys. Hi, April. And you guys can see me okay? So I'll get Erin on here in 1 second. All right, great. So excited. So let me tell you a little bit about Erin while we're waiting for her to get on. So, and let me just check, if she's a panelist, I might be able to just promote her on. Okay. All right, so if you guys are just hopping on, why don't you share where you're tuning in from and say hello, Kimberly and Erin. Yeah, I'm super excited. Plus, the nice thing is you all will get access to the replay. So definitely be taking notes. She'll be able to connect you afterwards with her notes as well. And we'll get the replay sent out via email as well. So we've got lots of people tuning in from warm places to cold places. I see Florida all the way up to Alaska. We've got Rhode Island. We got the East Coast. I feel like you guys have been totally slammed with crazy weather. It's been really weird here in Austin, Texas. It's been really warm and then it's cold. So we really just can't keep up at this point. So I met Erin Gargan King in April. There she is. Hi, Erin. What's up, girl? So we can't hear you, but we'll get it figured out. Let's see. You're not muted. So will you talk so we can see if you're there?
Hi, can you hear me?
We're in business. Girl, look how fancy you are with your microphone, headset. I need all of these things. I need the Amazon link. So welcome on. Everyone's just in the chat telling us where they're tuning in from. So thank you, Erin, for doing this. We are so thankful. You're incredible.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. So I was just telling them how I met you. So I went to a conference in April and this chick comes out on stage and she crushes it. Like she has this dynamic, entertaining, she's like bouncing around the stage in this dress with like white sneakers on. And she's just funny and engaging. But the coolest thing is, I feel like I understand social media and people, and I had notebooks full of ideas and concepts. And the cool thing was I walked away, took what I learned from her, and I started changing the way I was posting. And it was really cool to see my engagement was increasing just by the little things that she had taught just in that hour we had with her. And then I had a chance to see her again at a leadership event. So Erin, I was telling my friend Kathy was saying that, do you remember when you said you were going to interview Erin? And I said, no. She goes, after you saw her the second time, you go, I'm obsessed with this chick and I'm going to interview her. And I said, I did. So I've been wanting this to happen, and I'm so thankful that I can share you with my people. So everyone's welcoming you on. Why don't you share with everybody a little bit about who you are? Some of them have read your book. If not, you guys, you need to grab her book, Digital Persuasion. It's amazing. I have it right here, like literally at my fingertips all the time. Yes.
Love it.
I love this book so much. My husband's like, I feel like you are always reading this book. I'm like, well, I keep going back. It's not that I haven't finished it. I just keep going back.
Yeah.
She's the author of Digital Persuasion. She's a motivational keynote speaker. She's worked with everybody from the Academy Awards to
the United States Navy.
I said it wrong in my stories yesterday, and I'm like, something amazing. And the coolest thing about Erin is that she's an entrepreneur, you guys. She's not just somebody who goes around pumping people up. Like, she's been in the trenches. She's built things from scratch. She's had things fail. She's had huge successes. And now she's here to teach us how to really level up our social media. And most importantly, help you guys have more sales and more success in your business. So thank you, Erin. But why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks for that great intro, by the way. I need to bring you with me to do my intro for my next keynote. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, as Kimberly said, my backstory is I was working in corporate and I had a situation happen where I was up for a promotion against another guy named James. And James and I had the exact same sales numbers, but James played golf with the guys and kind of had an in with the boys club. And I was working really hard and ended up not getting the promotion. And so in that moment, I was 25 years old and I thought to myself, I think it's riskier to let someone else define what my success path looks like than just jumping and doing my best to try and forge my own way. And so I Jerry Maguired and quit my job, full on 25, no capital, no experience. I do not recommend doing that, by the way. My first company was called Jump Digital Media because I made the jump. And, I wasn't really ready for it. Within a year, I was running payroll on my personal credit card advance to pay my employees that had kids. And I learned a lot, went back to corporate, got some experience, started my second venture once I dug out of the debt from the first one. And it was called PMS.com. Oh. So PMS.com was a Dollar Shave Club type subscription model for women's monthly healthcare needs. So we shipped tampons, tutu towels, and PMS pain relief pills to 20,000 women all over the world. And that was a really fun business. I learned a lot about e-commerce, back-end, digital marketing, really rolled up the sleeves on that one. And we sold that business, which was actually like a medium success. And then my third company, which I've had for almost 10 years, is called Socialite Agency. We've run social media for everyone from, Visa, Hitachi, Siemens, Target, Johnson & Johnson, Fashion Week. We worked with Nelson Mandela's Legacy of Hope Foundation. And so through all these experiences running social media for these large events and large brands, the only thing that makes me any more of an expert when it comes to social and digital over the next person is I've just experimented with thousands of different types of content and campaigns. And I just know so much about what does not work that it's helped me understand a little bit about what does. And that's what I put in my book, Digital Persuasion, and what I talk about on stages all over the world, primarily to help direct sellers, multi-level marketing, social marketers to elevate how they show up online so that they can work smarter, not harder.
I love that. You guys know I'm always talking about elevating the profession. That's so fabulous.
Yeah.
You just bring so much experience to the table because a lot of people here have never done network marketing. They've never done direct sales. And I know some of you aren't in network marketing, but even just to be an entrepreneur, like it's not like you go to school for it, like you just kind of figure it out and fall into it. And then one day you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Why am I not having success? And I know you guys are on here because you want to learn how to get better, and I think that's great. But you bring so much experience to the table. So in the chat, why don't you share with us when you are reaching out, building your business, whether it's a coaching practice or trying to build your team, how are you currently reaching out to people? Are you cold messaging? Are you trying to build relationships and you're getting ghosted? Are you getting stuck in the friend zone? Are you trying to build on Facebook or Instagram? Share with us a little bit about where you're coming in from. And I know Instagram's your jam for sure, Erin. But I've been able to take what you taught and bring it over to Facebook as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's the principles, that's the key. So when we have people in our audience that they're trying so hard to talk to new people. So they have a new follower on Instagram or they have a new friend request on Facebook. And that first message, how do you recommend that they go about talking to that person where they can share what they do without spamming them? Or do you recommend that they first spend some time on the feed interacting for a little bit before taking it, and I call it exposing, like, woo, until they actually tell them what they do. What do you recommend with that?
Well, taking a step back before we talk about tactics and we will talk about exactly what to type. But let's take a step back and kind of pull back to that 30,000 foot view for a second and recognize the hard truth, which is unfortunately, because we are all publishers with distribution networks in the palm of our hands, the bar to publishing is very low. And so what this has done is it's created a lot of really horrible behavior on social and digital. And unfortunately, particularly in the MLM network marketing space, thousands of people have abused this tool, and it's developed this kind of stigma that's not really fair. Because when you see people responding negatively to you or ghosting you or maybe feeling a little bit like you don't want to tell people what you do, or you don't feel proud about what you're doing, it's not the model, because the model is fantastic. Like, who doesn't want to shop small? Who doesn't want to support their friends? Who doesn't want to discover great new products that make them look and feel and live their better life? These are all things we all love. So it's not the business model. It's just the way that we're talking about it, the way that we are attracting people, because what we're doing is we're pushing them away a lot of times. Mm-hmm. So the challenge is you have this sort of existing stigma that you're already battling against before you even jump in. So recognizing that there are ways that you can shatter this stigma and digitally differentiate yourself is the first key. So kind of understanding that, it's not you, it's the stigma of the company, and that's not something that you can control. What you can control is how you choose to show up and respond to that. So I wanted to share with you a quick story that I believe, Kimberly, you've heard before from me. But the reason why I'm so passionate about helping MLM and direct sellers to shatter that unfair stigma on social marketing is because one of my best girlfriends, 10 years ago, she was working in corporate, and she found out that she was unexpectedly pregnant. And so she ended up walking away from the corporate job because she wanted to raise her kids. So she's 2-3 years into it. She loves being a mom, but she's just lost her way. She feels like she doesn't have her own identity, her own income source. She just felt like she had lost who she was. And so she found this network marketing group and dove in very enthusiastically. She's 5'1", she's very bossy. Her nickname's Sarge. So Sarge jumped in very aggressively. Yes. And my mother unfollowed her. I was her maid of honor, and I blocked her or muted her messages. I mean, it was all the things that we see that are just like the what not to do's, right? All the caps locks and the apostrophes and the pushy DMs and the copy and paste and all the things, right? So one day she reached out to me and started selling me these products again. And I said, Sarge, I just feel like you're abusing our friendship. It feels like you're trying to push these products on me. We get in a huge fight, bawling, crying, hang up. So I go to her house the next day with a bottle of wine, and I'm like, girl, we got to figure this out, because there is a better way. You don't have to be pushing people away. It's not what you're doing. Again, it's the approach. And so what I shared with her is a method that I've developed working with my corporate clients, my Fortune 100s, Fortune 500s. And I said, look, I don't know about direct selling. I'm not a direct seller, but I know what works for these big brands. And so I'm just going to share with you this method that we've developed over thousands of campaigns, looking at patterns around what makes people stop the scroll, lean forward, and actually care about your story. I'm going to share this method with you. You apply it to you and what you're doing, and maybe you'll have some success. Well, fast forward, that was 10 years ago. Fast forward to today, and not only is Sarge making a ton of money, living her best life, and has 1,000 women reporting up to her in her upline, but on top of all of that, I am now on auto ship for these darn products because now I love them. My own method worked on me. So I want to share with you what that method looks like, because it's really powerful, and that's what I teach. And it really, when I teach this method to you, I'm going to give you kind of the high level. And there's more, in my book and my group coaching program I'm starting in January. But for the high level, the concept is when you're thinking about whether it's responding to DMs, or whether it's updating your newsfeed, or even if it's stories. It doesn't matter if it's Facebook, Instagram, text message, email. When those fingers hit a keyboard, the most important thing to keep in mind is that we are coming from a place of what we want to tell people. We want to talk about our products, our life, us. Now, the challenge is that when you think about what persuades you to care, the biggest thing is when you can see yourself in that person's story. If you can't see yourself in the person's story, oftentimes you're not persuaded to stop the scroll and care. So for example, we were all in Denver, the Mile High City, for that leadership event, right? And we were at the Ritz-Carlton. It's super fun. It's fancy. And what people were doing, like you would, is just saying, hey, here's me. I'm at the Ritz-Carlton in Denver, and you're not, right? So it makes it, people are like, oh, like it makes them feel bad. Maybe it adds to the whole comparison trap that we all get into on social media, feeling like we're not good enough, or we're not successful enough, or pretty enough, or whatever, right? So instead of just sharing with like, here's how great this is for me and what's happening with me, the first step of this method is you want to ask yourself, am I communicating in a way that's really personal to the person on the other side of the screen. Okay, so if you are, having an incredible event, or you are having an incredible new product launch, or you are having a great time out with your team, or you're doing something cool, of course you want to share it with the world, right? And that's fine. Show about you, show what you're doing. But if you can flip your language around to type about them so they can see themselves in your story, so that they feel like you're bringing them on the journey with them and not just kind of like braggasaurusing about it, that's the difference. So a very simple way to do that is to just change the language. Instead of saying, I'm doing this and I'm here and you're not, what you can use is a very simple trick of using less I and more you. So imagine that you've been struggling with finding ways to build your business, and then you find yourself at an event that gives you this great idea. Have you ever found yourself, feeling X, Y, and Z? So there you are. You're just about to give up when suddenly this happens. So now see how, even though you're showing about you at the Ritz-Carlton in Denver, your language is now bringing that person on the journey with you. So they're linking arms with you and not feeling separated. So that's the first step, is making sure they can see themselves in what you're talking about by being conscious to use a little less I and a little more you. So before this call, we talked about this a little bit, Kimberly, and you said at first it was uncomfortable, right? And even for me,
hard.
Right?
Yeah, I was like, I kept wanting to say I mean, I was shocked at how much I said I. It was really kind of difficult, but it's not like we're trying to do that, because it's our experience. So we say I, but then it's all about me. And when people see it, they're like, oh, look what Kimberly's doing. It's that comparison. And then I'm separating myself from them instead of being like, oh, look what I'm doing. Don't you want to come be a part of this? There's no inclusion with that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And so being aware and cognizant that we are scientifically set up to be very selfish behind screens. It's called the online disinhibition effect. Psychologists have discovered this pattern. It's actually a scientific reason why we act bold and rude and dumb and self-centered online, because we can't physically see the other person's reaction. We have a physical distance and there's a delay. It's asynchronistic communication. So those little bubbles on text message, or the delay between your post and the comments. So all these things are erecting these barriers to really connecting on an empathetic, human, real life way. And that's why we're so much more persuasive in person, face to face, even on a Zoom call like this, than we are when we're typing, texting, and tweeting. And so just being aware that we are set up to not inherently be great at this is an awesome first step to being a little bit more intentional about flipping the focus to be serving the person on the other side of the screen, not just pushing your own agenda. So if you just do that, you'll already start to see people responding to you in a more positive way.
So is that why, because I started doing video marketing 2 years ago, and when I started being consistent with it, like my following increased, but I started getting people reaching out to me saying, hey, I've been watching you for a while and I want to know more about what you do. And so since then, I built my whole business almost on attraction marketing. Like I very rarely reach out to people, and I'm thankful for that, but I don't think it was by accident, because I didn't have any followers. Like I didn't know what I was doing. But do you think it's because video, like when people are on a live, even if it's the replay, do you think it's because they feel like they're more connected to you and you're like dropping those barriers down? Or why do you think that's so powerful?
Well, first of all, it's powerful because we both used a lot of dry shampoo today, and so our hair looks amazing. And so the dry shampoo industry, I'm sure, has accelerated with the advent of lives and so much video marketing. No, but it is true. I mean, having that face-to-face connection, you feel like you're having a conversation. But even more beyond the fact that it's just in person is persuasive, Kimberly, I believe that the secret to your success, anyone on this call's success of leveraging the platform, is not just the fact that you're showing up face to face, but that you are doing the second step in my method, the pub method, which is called useful. So P is personal, U is useful. And when you're showing up, you're not just saying, hey, I'm Kimberly, look at my beautiful Pinterest kitchen and my awesome hair and my awesome life. You can be awesome too. No, you're showing up and you're offering something that's useful, that's of value. You're sharing stories that are moving them in a way that motivates them to feel like they can do it. You're offering how-tos and DIYs and details, and you're showing them an actual roadmap to get to where they want to go. And so offering something useful is the second step, whether you're talking about DMs, posts, and stories. Now, we think we're being useful oftentimes when we're just talking about what. the product, the offering, the sale, the thing, right? The what. But really, when it comes down to what you find useful and what makes you reach out and say, tell me more, which is the idea, right? Not to push template, copy and paste BS email crap on people, but to offer something useful that makes you lean forward and say, tell me more. The key is, it's not just the what. People want to understand the why and the how. I mean, what's useful is why this matters, why they should care, how can they exactly do it? I mean, the why and the how are so huge for us to be able to understand what we can't see from just the photo or the video. So the biggest way you can be useful in your captions, in your comments, in your messages is to talk about what they can't see. So if you upload a photo of you and your team cheersing, having a great success, or someone got a car, or someone paid off a debt, or whatever the celebration is, great. Yes, absolutely celebrate that. But what can't we see from that photo? Can you peel back the layer to like the key insight or the key story or the key moment that occurred that made that night or that moment so magical? And that's when people will start to lean forward and say, well, go on. What else are they talking about? Because you're not just being like everyone else and just using the same phrases, what if I told you this? It's the same 10 things that we see, and there's so much more that we can offer that's useful, particularly if you want to be different. What's really useful is peeling back that layer of perfection and Instagram filtered BS and being real about the struggles, being real about how long things take. When I was first public speaking, I was afraid people wouldn't take me seriously because, I'm just like a gal that looks, like early 30s or whatever. That was back then, obviously. But like, people it was a lot of like male dominated industries, and they're like, what is this chick gonna tell us, right? And so I'd go out there and I'd be like, my first company was a success, and my second one, my third, I've just been a success since day one. And people just didn't identify with that because, first of all, it wasn't true. And second of all, because perfection is not relatable and it's not real. And the minute that I started sharing my real story, which is the first company was a disaster, the second one was okay, and the third one I'm still building, that's when everyone started to respond and standing ovations and leaning forward and saying, tell me more. So I think that what's really useful is for you to peel back the truth and really share the fact that like it is a rocky road and it is a rocky journey, and here's what happened for you, and here's what you can't see beyond the success of this image, this perfectly curated, lovely feed that we create, and peeling back that reality. So, I mean, one thing that I like to preach a lot is the difference between ephemeral disappearing stories and your actual static newsfeed posts. So a lot of people try to the difference between like the ephemeral disappearing stories, so 24-hour stories, and then your actual newsfeed posts. Because I believe that there is a way that we can exist at the intersection of putting our best foot forward, which is our feed, right? Because you go to someone's profile and think of what you do. 2 to 3 scrolls, and you have decided that you know who this person is about, what their lifestyle's about, and what you can expect to likely see should you follow them, right? And we're so judgy. It's like 2 to 3 scrolls, like, okay, we know who this person is. So when it comes to your newsfeed, yes, put your best foot forward with like beautiful moments and beautiful imagery, and think of it as like a first date or a job interview. We definitely want to show up looking and feeling and projecting our best self, of course. And that's fantastic. And when we look at the story side of things, the disappearing side of things, the 24 hours, that's our opportunity to peel back those layers and be a little bit more real and raw and authentic and everyday. And if you don't have the perfect face of makeup and you do have the hat on, don't be afraid to push the button and share what's happening, because it makes you more relatable and more human. So I think taking that pressure off of ourselves to be this like perfectly polished concept that everyone wants to aspire to be like, we have a lot of Instagram perfection fatigue right now that we're all fighting. So if you want to be different and you want to be useful and personal, be your damn real self, and people will start to say yes, and they will start to say, tell me more.
Oh, there's so many good things you said. There was this girl that she was, I think 4 years in a row, she was #1 for her company. And so when she was on stage, the photo, well, normally you would see that and you would be not jealous, but it wouldn't do it
Sure.
right. Well, she had someone had taken a picture with her 4 kids in the first row. And it was like her 4 kids and then the picture, and you could see her on stage receiving her award. And she said, like, the post went viral. And I was like, why did it go viral? Because people realized, like, she's doing that for her family and her kids. And she's not trying to be like, oh, look at me, you know, beauty queen. She's worked her tail off to create something for her family and change her family tree. And I just loved that story and that example of these photos. When you post them, like you said, you want to put your best foot forward, but before you post that thing, what message are you trying to relay to people? You know, like, what is the point? And like you said, what can't we see in the photo? That's what the post gets to be about. You get to share in there why that was important to you. So there's just so much that I think that I hear from a lot of people, they'll say, well, Kimberly, I don't know what to post to my stories because I don't travel. I don't do anything fun. I was at home all day and drank hot tea. Like, what am I supposed to post about? And I was like, you know, you can tell your story. You can talk about how great it is to work from home and, you know, a laptop lifestyle. And you can talk about that tea. Like, how does that tea make you feel when you have that tea? But when you said about we're fatigued with the perfection on Instagram, I totally agree with that. I mean, can you talk a little bit about, it's going with the usefulness with the post, but with being relatable in stories. And I feel like stories is I spend so much more time on my stories than on my post on Instagram. I don't post every single day on Instagram anymore like I used to. And I find that it's actually good. You know, it's okay. But can you talk a little bit about how to use your stories to really, like your step 2 with the personal too, but the usefulness in your stories? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So when it comes to stories being useful, step 1 is, can you tell a story in your stories? Like, a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? So the idea is, you know, instead of just like lining up random snaps in real time, this is a twofer, okay? So this is not only more effective for engaging people, but it also is better for improving the quality of your life and making sure that you are looking up and living in the moment, because honestly, this phone can be an excellent tool. It can build your business. It can also rob you from the joy of living in the real world. So this is a twofer I'm going to share with you, okay? So what I do is, if I'm at an event, if I am at a client half-day workshop, if I'm working on my coaching calls, if I'm doing my 5,000 person webinars and we're going deep, and this is a very high level conversation today, but when we go deep on details and strategy and all the things, what I do is I capture little moments with my phone. I capture the photos, I capture the videos. I do not upload them in the moment. Later, when I'm not in the moment, when I'm not around people that I care about, when I am, you know, by myself and I've done my self-care and my gratitude and called my mom and done all the things, then I sit down and I go through what I captured from the moment. Because if you post something 2 hours or 3 hours later, sometimes people care, but for the most part, no one really cares. And what you're doing is you're getting to live in the moment by capturing it, but it's like, you know, grabbing it later or posting it later. But number 2, it allows you to be a little more intentional about how you are presenting the beginning, the middle, and the end of this story. So setting up the scene for what happened and showing, let's say it's behind the scenes or it's the insider component that you can't see from the photo. Maybe you're talking about the why behind how we even got there, like this gal did with her children in the front row, which, by the way, works so well because if you have children, you saw yourself walking in her shoes on that stage, right? Personal. And then useful was to see what's possible should you have the courage to jump off and do this. So starting with something very, like with your stories, showing, like setting the landscape of like, here is where we're starting. You know, then you move to like, here is the thing that happened. So you set the scene, here's where we are, then here's the thing that happened. Like, what happened? You know, we tried this, we felt this, we learned this, we saw this. It has to have a moment. And there is a moment in our days that we might think is so not important, but it could be something where, you know, I have a moment in one of my stories in my keynote where I talk about the fact that there was a point in time where I couldn't pay a $100 cell phone bill. And that's a very small little moment. But for me, it triggered an entire shift, an entire change of what I did and what I chased and how I grew. Like, not being able to pay a bill seems like a small everyday moment that everyone's experienced, but it can be a moment that's so small that helped you to suddenly stop and say, wait a minute, what am I doing? Where am I going? And so sharing the thing that actually happened. And then the third step is, now what? What is this? What does the new normal of your life look like? I mean, what changed as a result? Because I think oftentimes we kind of do sort of the beginning, which is like, okay, here's where we started. And then we do the end of the story, which is like, and now look where we are. But let's talk more about those moments in the middle, right? The unsexy, everyday moments, whether it's your routine, whether it's your effort, whether it's your motivation, like whatever happened, share the thing that happened, because but that's what we're hungry for. We're hungry for an actual story. So that's the first thing with stories, is to take time to curate and actually tell a story of here is what happened, right? Versus just random moment, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing with stories is that oftentimes we feel that we have to shoulder all the responsibility of being the storytellers. Okay, so yes, telling stories is powerful, as I just said. Definitely tell your stories. And sometimes if you are sitting at home and you're sipping the tea and you're thinking to yourself, I've really told all my stories for the week. I'm kind of running low on motivation and creativity, and I'm seeing that little blinking, light, and I don't know what to do, right? What should I post? What should I say is the constant struggle I hear from my tribe. So here's the thing, you don't have to always tell the story yourself. You can evolve from being a storyteller to thinking more like a story seeker.
Whoa.
You can find people that can tell your story better than you can. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about the fact, like, for example, with this network marketing company, my best friend Sarge is at the very top of the heap with, I don't get paid from them. I don't get commissions from them. I don't have time to do that. That's not interesting to me, but I love their products. I really believe in them. I think what she's doing is really rad. And so what she'll do sometimes is she'll reach out to me, and she'll either do like a split screen, like a Be Live TV on Facebook, or she'll do an Instagram Live with the two of us, or she'll just ask me to record a quick 30-second video clip and text it to her. But she'll ask me to tell my story of my experience having used her products or having engaged with her, and what was my why and what was my how. And then she'll just republish. She'll just reshare what someone else has to say about her journey, what someone else has to say about what she's doing. I think we always think it has to be from us. Mm-hmm. But you have those ambassadors, those power users, those super fans that maybe aren't part of your team. Maybe they don't get paid, but they just genuinely like the product. I mean, why are we not putting a microphone and a spotlight around these other stories and take the pressure off ourselves to always have to shoulder the responsibility of being the only voice of the brand? Because the truth is, we have skin in the game. If you're speaking on behalf of your brand, if you have skin in the game, it's never going to be as powerful as someone who is just genuinely sharing their love for a product. That's why we love discovering new products from friends who don't work for the company, because we believe them. We know, can trust them, because they're not getting paid to say they like it. It's a lot more powerful and it's a lot more effective. So a big piece is, can you find the stories in your crew? Are there one or two people in your world that seasonally are using your product? Like for her, it's Christmas, and she has this great 30-day program where, you cut out sugar and you do all this stuff. And she has 3 gals that have already lost a bunch of weight in this program. They don't work for the company, but they really have had great results just in time for the holidays. And so she's sharing their journey. She's sharing their story, but in their own words, in the way that they're telling the story. So just being brave enough to think beyond not just always your perspective, but what other people have to say about the journey. And it doesn't have to be so it can be real and raw. It can be like, I'll be honest, like one of the stories I saw that resonated for me was this gal said every year she makes the New Year's resolution to lose the 10 pounds. And she's 0 for 10 years on losing the 10 pounds, right? She said, this year, I'm getting out in front of it. I am going to start not tomorrow, not in 2020, not in January. I'm going to start today. Wow. And I'm starting now. And that hit home for me because I love a good diet starts tomorrow, Yeah. And it's inspired me to reach forward and reach out to Sarge and say, hey, can I get some of those skin elixirs that she's talking about? I'm interested. So again, attracting that tell me more, which is what you're talking about with the people who reach out to you, pulling them towards you with real stories, not just always pushing the same old classic copy and paste templated emails, which do not work 9 out of 10 times. So I can't encourage people enough that if you are still playing the numbers game, your days are unfortunately numbered because the market's too saturated. People have heard it. They're not falling for it. You might hit the lottery of those 10 copy and paste outreaches. If someone has its wedding season, or they're turning 40 or they're turning 50 and they just happen to be motivated, and you happen to have the stars align and Mercury's in retrograde, and there happens to be something passing by in that exact moment. you might get them. But the reality is you're more likely to open those relationships and those dialogues by acting like a real human being who is serving and not selling, not just, random drive-by inbox messages, which are very invasive, by the way. Our inboxes are places that we're very protective of. It's like knocking on someone's bedroom door. That's not okay. But if you're hanging out in the family room, it's a little bit more of a safe space. And that's why, thinking less like a hunter and more like a farmer, more cultivating these quality relationships and connecting with people and not trying to collect them like they're just these numbers of trying to push your agenda. It's a waste of your time. It's not fun. It contributes to the stigma. And in today's day and age, when you can know so much about people, there really is no excuse to do that. I mean, I always say that research is the new listening. The world's greatest salespeople are phenomenal listeners. But because you can't always ask questions face-to-face, you have to win on digital first to ignite dialogue later, obviously. But there's so much gold that you can dig from just searching people's profiles and listening to what they're posting about, what they care about, and working backwards from there, which is why I talk a lot about the last step of my method is being brief. So being personal, being useful, and being brief, this PUB method. And being brief is the fact that you can do so much in such a little amount of time. And you don't have to be spending an hour or two on social media. I hope you're not. I hope you're living your life and not wasting it scrolling through the black hole of Instagram, telling yourself you're working when you're really maybe consuming things that aren't that positive for your psyche or your energy. And, I love a good, unfollow a day. I try to unfollow one thing a day that makes me feel like crap. And slowly but surely it's making my time on social media a lot more positive and effective and not always comparing. But, you need to think about that brief moment where you can contribute something that is personal and useful. Maybe it's in the form of a really well thought out comment. I call it conscious custom commenting, which is the fact that just doing a drive-by 100 emoji or a drive-by fire emoji or a red lady dress emoji, yeah, it's better than nothing. But can you really comb through your warm connections posts and start to open really thoughtful dialogue? If someone was on vacation, like even us talking earlier before this Zoom call, you were like, how is New Zealand? I heard about this and that. If you had messaged me that on my comments, I would have leaned forward and said, well, let's have a dialogue. Let's be human beings and have a dialogue like as if we were at a real event or a cocktail party or the sidelines of your kids' games. I mean, it's just the fact that we have to shatter that screen to show up more like we do offline, online. And that's what this method can help you remember to do, is to think like the person that you already are in real life and sort of outsmart that barrier that the screen puts between us.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I hope you guys are taking notes. Put fire in the comments if you are picking up what she's dropping. Amazing. Also, I always like to give you guys homework. I want to challenge all of you to get one story from somebody else, because there's still those before and afters floating around and we've seen them all. And I think they're okay to drop in the story sometimes, but how amazing would it be if you could just ask someone that's loving your product, or even maybe someone who's working with you on your team? I mean, how impactful would that be for you to have them, like you have done for your friend, send a 30-second clip. It ends up being a couple of stories. And it's your friend saying, a person on your team, like, I love working with Kimberly because, she's always there for me. She's showing me the ropes. I know I can ask her. She's put systems in place to help me be successful. People notice that stuff. Like, this is the thing. They're watching. You might not see them comment. You might not even know that they're watching a video, but they're watching you because they're making a decision about you. And they're deciding, does Kimberly have what I want? Is she going to teach me what I need to be successful? Because I'm not right here and I want to be here. Is Kimberly the one that's going to get me there? So I love that so much. And I don't think I really am seeing a lot of that out there. So I would challenge all of you to make it your homework to say, okay, I'm going to ask a few people and I'm going to get at least one story. And also you can grab other ones too. That's what's so nice about Instagram. If you see something motivational, someone's posted or whatever, you can repost that stuff. So it's not just, the Erin show on her story. She's grabbing other people's tools. So people start to go, oh my gosh, I'm never going to miss one of Erin's stories because she's sharing about her and also the amazing things around her. I want to make sure I'm always seeing her stuff. And last thing I want to mention what you said, how does it make you guys feel when you cold message? How does it make you feel when that person unfriend you or doesn't respond? Like energetically, how does it make you feel? I want you to think about that new person that you're teaching them how to build their business that way. That's why there isn't the retention that you want, or people aren't having success. Energetically, like you said, how would I talk to the other mom at gymnastics? Like, I just think about that. I'm like, hey, I saw on Facebook, you guys went here. How was it? That would be completely normal to talk in person with her that way. So let's translate offline onto online. So anyways, I just wanted to piggyback on that.
Yeah.
So amazing.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's really about the fact that you already know what to do. I mean, everyone on this call already has within them what it takes to show up the way you do in real life online. And using this method, this is it personal, is it useful, is it brief, this pub method, you pub before you publish. I use it before every single email, because I'll even find myself saying, hi, I just wanted to reach out. And I'm like, what am I doing? I mean, and I teach this. So it's, and I just stop myself and I ask, is this personal to my recipient? Is this actually useful? Am I bringing them up, or am I dragging them down? And is this brief? Because when we're on these different, whether it's a live or a message, we tend to, first of all, if we're typing, we tend to repeat ourselves. We tend to go on and on and on, the multi-scroll, great wall of text that no one wants to read. Get to the point, land the plane, right? And then when you think about your lives as well, oftentimes, I even think to myself, okay, open with something personal to the audience, because what's your gut reaction is, if you're going live or going on video, go, hi guys, I'm here. This is me doing my thing, because it's called throat clearing, because we're uncomfortable and we're trying to get comfortable for ourselves. But you're going to lose someone if you don't dive right in the first 10 seconds. Personal. Here's what's in it for you right now. Useful. We're covering these 3 things. Brief. Get right into it, and then make a yes or no ask at the end. Take them somewhere at the end. So even like today on this call, I mean, you and I started off with saying, like, what's personal to the audience? Here are some useful things. And then brief, join my group coaching program in January if you want to go deeper on a lot more examples and case studies and ways that you can have an everyday routine to elevate how you're showing up. Boom. You don't have to beat around the bush and make them do all this work to figure out what it is you want them to not just think and feel, but do. Right? So that clarity of call to action is huge. So, not being shouty, not being bossy, not saying sign up now or DM me, all that kind of stuff, but making it very clear that there is a next step to take. And oftentimes we need to kind of pump the brakes a little bit. Sometimes in these messages, we try to introduce ourselves, build rapport, offer the product, ask for the time on their calendar. Like, that is way too much for one message when someone's just saying, whoa, I'm not here to shop. I'm here to hang out and experience. And so adjusting our language to be more appropriate for the environment that we're all hanging out in is a big key. And the pub method is a place to start. Being aware of how often you're using I over you, which forces your brain to flip through the screen and remember the person on the other side of the screen is a human being, a living, breathing, fellow human being. So let's be more empathetic and more personal and more specific about why this matters to them. Is this useful? Am I just bragging about something? Am I just checking the box? Am I just doing what everyone else is doing? Or am I offering something really useful, an inspirational tip, a DIY, a how-to, a backstory from someone else, which is so powerful? Is there a bigger why? Is there a how? What is useful? Is this actually helping them? Maybe what's useful is not even coming from your profile or coming from your story. Maybe it's just engaging on their profiles, in their comments, talking about what they are doing, going deeper on offering recommendations for podcasts or books or labels or brands or apps. There's so much you can offer instead of always trying to make that ask. And then finally, is this brief? Am I landing the plane? Am I getting right to it? And am I speaking with intention and clarity and purpose? Am I getting in and getting out? Because people are just going through their news feeds like we all are. They're in line at Starbucks, maybe they are, maybe they're bored during something at work. Maybe they're waiting on their kids picking up from school, whatever. But we're scrolling through our news feeds in a very lean back psychology. We're not leaning forward and saying, oh, please tell me more, right? Yet. So we want to make sure that we're coming from a place of, offering these relationship building nuggets by being personal and useful and brief with every interaction. And when you first start doing it, it can feel a little uncomfortable. It can feel a little bit like, this feels so weird. And it's not that you can't showcase your life and say, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. You totally can. And if you're trying to persuade someone to care about your mission, the more you can make it about them and bring them into the experience, the more you'll start to see that this quality over quantity approach is going to not only build your business, but also have you working smarter and not harder and living more of your life in the real world, doing great things and not feeling stuck behind this phone, being frustrated that you're not seeing the results you're looking for. So I really recommend that everyone, like you said, taking the first step. Can you find one story from someone else? Can you, I do a digital high five. So every day I do 5 conscious custom comments to people in my warm network. So it's a digital high five. I high five 5 people very specifically, very intentionally, not just cool, you're rocking it. I don't use the word amazing because it's the most overused adjective on the planet.
And it's all the time.
There's so many other great words, right? Stupendous, fantastic, magnificent, unbelievable. There's all these great other words. So even the language you're using, you can stand out and be different and not just say everything's amazing, amazing, right? So just these little things to think about and just feeling like, these little changes, even if you just try one thing we talked about today, you'll start to see the results. And I hope that everyone listening will, when you go on my Instagram, Erin Gargan King, please send me your success stories because we all have a why. And my why is I love seeing people in this business succeed and grow because I really believe that, in today's world, I really believe that what we are doing with this business model is kind of the only way that I've really seen where women and a few good men can have it all, where they can identify who they are outside maybe their traditional roles as, wife or mother or corporate person. They can carve out a business for themselves. They can enjoy meeting other people and growing their network and meeting great individuals that can enrich their lives. And also they're making money doing what they love. So I believe in the mission very strongly. And I hope that everyone takes it to heart, and I can't wait to see the success that everyone hopefully will share with us.
Oh, I love it. We have one of my goal digger dudes on here. He said, yay for the men.
Absolutely. Yay.
So tell me, can you tell them a little bit about your feature where they can text you and get the notes for this or get connected on I think you have something with the pub. I know I've gotten it before.
Yeah.
Finish with your group coaching. For those you're listening, you're like, where's Erin been my whole life? That's exactly how I felt when she stepped on stage. You want to work more, closely with her and really get the deep dive to figure out your DMO, but basically your practical application. Like how do you take what you just heard today and infuse it into your daily business to get the results that you want? She has a group coaching program starting very soon, but can you share with them to wrap it up about how they can get connected?
So there's 3 things we're doing today. So step 1 is on my Instagram at Erin Gargan King, there is a link to sign up for the wait list for my group coaching program starting in January. And that is really going to be where we go much deeper on platform specifics, do's and don'ts, ideas, recommendations, case studies, even talking a lot about measurement, because we can't manage what we can't measure. And I think a lot of times we focus on that front end creativity, but are we really measuring what is or isn't working, or are we just kind of going by what we think is or isn't working? So all the things will be in this deep dive group coaching program, which is launching in January, which I'm very excited about. So that's step 1 is sign up for that. Step 2 is, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this and I am high energy. So sometimes things get lost because I speak very quickly. So what I do for people is if you want to get a very simple, very easy 2-page PDF that sums up all the important points of what we talked about today, for the most part, you can text the keyword goal digger, GOAL digger, to the number 66866. So 66866, like that's your friend, right? In the 2, and then the keyword is goal digger, and you will have a link that you can download a 2-page PDF of sort of the most important things to keep in mind when you leave today's conversation and fingers to keyboard start implementing. So that's number 2. And then number 3 is the fact that I am going to be giving away 3 free copies of my book, Digital Persuasion, signed and mailed to you today. I'm going to the post office in 2 hours. So the winners will be announced in about an hour. All you have to do is follow me on Instagram and send me a DM of the part of today's conversation that was the most aha for you. So the part that you said, ooh, that's me, I can do that. So send me your, I got this, that was it, I'm going to do this in my DMs. And 3 of you will receive free signed copies of my book, Digital Persuasion, which is also available on Amazon.
I love that. It's genius. Oh my gosh. So great. They say, eek. That's amazing. And what I'll do is when I send out the replay, I'll include her group coaching link, the text information as well. And then also I'll drop your IG in the replay bottom feed as well, because I know some of you will listen while you're driving and things like that too. So I'll include that in the replay so you guys can easily access what she just mentioned as well to make it simple. So thank you so much, Erin. I know how busy you are. Again, I can't tell you how much this means to us that you spent the time pouring into us today, because we need all the help we can get.
Well, you know what? You are all rocking it, and I cannot wait to see all the success. I'm going to be following and waiting to hear all the great stories that you will tell. So thank you for having me, and have a fantastic rest of the day.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye, guys. See you
Take care,
later.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.